Hello, this is John Lehman. I'm a Senior Technical Account Manager for AWS out of Boston, and I want to help you extract the value from a powerful AWS service, Lambda. Lambda is event-driven computing that is transforming the way applications are being architected. Lambda was launched at reInvent 2014, and since then, developers and system architects have been creating some pretty amazing things. Lambda enables serverless architectures that can scale to handle explosive growth. And on the flip side, if no one uses these applications, the cost will be zero as nothing is running. I'm convinced that new applications should be built on serverless frameworks and require great justification to be developed in any other manner. The goal of this video is to get developers new to Lambda ready to write business logic through a short series of demos. I'm going to explain how Lambda works at a high level, explain what events are and what some sources of them can be, describe and investigate the various payloads from these sources, and hopefully get you to a point where you can start writing this business logic. Let's start by creating a default Lambda function in the console. We aren't going to set up any events to start in an effort to keep things as simple as possible. For this tutorial, I'll be using Python, but you can use your language of choice. Here you will see the code that will be executed when this function is triggered. This code simply returns hello world. I'm going to trigger this event via AWS CLI to confirm that this runs as expected. We'll list all the functions in my account, then manually invoke it. After a successful run, we'll confirm hello from Lambda is printed to our output file. Nice. We have successfully executed a hello world Lambda function. We can confirm that our function has been invoked by looking at the monitoring tab within the Lambda console. To take this a step further, we need to understand what a Lambda event is. An event will contain a payload of the source trigger. If invoked manually, you'll pass along a payload in JSON format, or if invoked by another AWS service, it will automatically get passed along with every event. Context can be thought of as metadata to the event, and not all events will contain this context. Let's update the code of this Lambda function to take advantage of the event. The new code will import a couple packages that I use often, print some informational text to the CloudWatch logs, and then print the event and the context to CloudWatch, and ultimately return the event. With this in place, let's invoke this function via CLI again. Before we do that, however, we're going to need a payload to send along with our new request. I'm going to use jsongenerator.com to construct a sample payload. I'll save this off in a file, and we can use this to pass along with the invoke request using the payload argument. After a successful execution, we now have the event returned in an output file as well as printed to the CloudWatch logs. I now want to investigate this payload in Python so I can extract some information that we will presumably use for making a business decision. I will investigate the payload from our output file as well as the same payload from the CloudWatch logs. You'll notice that it is slightly easier to use the CloudWatch logs for two reasons. One is you simply don't have access to the output file in all cases, for example when you're using AWS native events. The second reason is because we used Python to print the event to CloudWatch, we're not going to need to translate the event for Python to take advantage of, and you'll see this shortly. So let's try to assign the content of the output file to a Python variable. We're going to get an error because we need to tell Python that this is JSON, which adds a couple of steps. First, I'll import the raw text, then, using the JSON package, load the data. Now we're ready to start investigating this payload. Looking at this payload, I notice it's a list of length 5. I'm going to look at the first item, which appears to be a dictionary. And anytime you hear dictionary, think key values. And then we can print the keys for the first item in this list, and we have a handful. I'm going to pick 3 that look interesting: name, greeting, and balance. And we can see the values of these keys printed when I ask for them. You can imagine a use case for this event to send a message or maybe update the greeting if the balance of an account breaches $3,000. Now that we pulled this information out of our event, we're much closer to being able to write the business logic to support such a use case. We now can go back to the monitoring in Lambda console and see that this was invoked, but let's look at what CloudWatch shows us. As I mentioned earlier, you won't always have access to the output file, so let's recreate what we've just done using the event as seen in CloudWatch. We can see our payload is indeed printed in the logs, and I'm going to attempt to set a Python variable equal to the value copied out of the logs. You'll notice no transformation is needed, and it's already formatted for Python. And then quickly, I'm just going to investigate this new variable to show that it does contain the same data. The last thing we need to explore is an AWS native event. Lambda can be triggered from many different sources within AWS: S3, DynamoDB, SNS, Kinesis streams, config, and the list goes on, as well as other Lambda events and custom code as well, as we've seen via CLI. For the next example, I'm going to demo an S3 event. I already have a bucket created. I'm going to view the properties to create an event. I'll name it, set an event to trigger on any change in the bucket, so that's anything created and anything removed. I'm not going to use this prefix or the suffix as a limiter, as a filter, but you should brainstorm how that could be a powerful filter. Maybe if you wanted to create a thumbnail of all files that were .jpeg, or all files uploaded to an images prefix. That might be a good use case. Once this event is created, we can see that there is a new event linked to the function in the Lambda console under triggers. With this in place, let's upload a file to trigger the event. Now we can see a new invocation in the monitoring tab. We can look in CloudWatch for our payload. And sure enough, there it is. Now, just like before, I'll assign this payload to a Python variable to investigate the data. For this example, I'll look for the name of the file that was uploaded. So the S3 payload is a dictionary file, and you can think key values when you think that. And the only key in the S3 payload is one. There's only one key, and that's records. So if we look at the records key of the S3 payload, we know it's a list of length 1. So we're going to take the first item of the list, and we notice that that is also a dictionary. Printing out the keys gives us a list of keys. We're going to look at a few. Event name, so that's an S3 action that is a put. Event source, which comes from S3. And the S3 key, which is a dictionary with a few of its key values as well. So within the S3 dictionary, we see one is an object, which in and of itself is a dictionary. And then if we go one level deeper, we find that there is a key with the name key, and that contains the file name. So written out in full, it's the payload, the records key. It's the first record in that list with the S3 key, object key, and then key. And that will give us the file name that was uploaded to S3. As you can see, it's important to be able to investigate what a payload is to extract the data you're looking for. Now that we have this, I'm going to update the Lambda function to return the file name rather than the entire payload, and this will be much more useful. In the code of the Lambda function, I'm going to set a variable test payload equal to the sample payload and return only the file name. As we can see in the output that we get, the output is splash.png, which is the file I uploaded. It is at this point that you are ready to start writing business logic. You can use Lambda functions like this to call other functions, leverage external services, or really anything else that you can imagine. We've covered a brief Lambda overview, how to invoke Lambda functions manually, how to invoke Lambda functions via other AWS services, how to print payloads to logs, how to investigate these payloads and extract critical data points, and how to use this payload to start writing the business logic required to get the most value out of Lambda. Thank you for joining me. There are a couple of assumptions I've made throughout this video and a lot of areas I haven't covered. For this reason, I've included a few links to interesting articles that helped inspire me. So please check out these links if you want to keep learning. If you've enjoyed this video, have any feedback, or would like to see another topic covered, please leave a comment below. Thank you.